Welcome to the Quiet Strength Podcast, Fathers in a Failing World. I'm Giacomo Knox. We live in a time when the role of fathers is often misunderstood, sometimes ignored, and occasionally even ridiculed. Yet throughout history, strong fathers, sometimes loud but often quiet, have held families, communities, and entire civilizations together. This podcast explores that quiet strength. Each episode brings together thoughtful conversations about fatherhood, responsibility, faith, forgiveness, and the challenges men face in raising the next generation. Some of these conversations are inspired by research, history, and emerging technology that helps us explore important new ideas in new ways. This is an independent production, built by people who believe that strong families and strong fathers still matter. As the show grows, we are always interested in connecting with organizations and partners who want to help us support meaningful conversations about fatherhood and legacy. But at the heart of every episode is a simple question. What does it mean to be a good father in a world that sometimes feels like it's falling apart? This is the Quiet Strength Podcast. Let's begin.
You know, when we think of armor, we usually picture this heavy, shining suit of steel.
Right, like a knight clanking around.
Yeah, exactly. Physically protected from the outside world, it's visible, it's heavy, and it has a very clear, singular purpose. Keep the bad stuff out.
Right, it's literal protection. A tangible barrier you can touch.
But then you look around today and, well, you realize people are still walking around in full suits of armor. It's just completely invisible.
It really is.
It's woven from the clothes they choose, the silence they keep, the personas they build to survive, you know, the boardroom, or even just the family dinner. And the craziest part is, most of us don't even realize we're wearing it.
And unlike that steel suit, this invisible armor isn't something you can just take off and leave on a stand at the end of the day.
Right.
Because it's psychological and it's behavioral. It often grows right into the skin.
Exactly. So today we are going on a custom-tailored journey just for you, the listener, to figure out how this invisible armor gets built.
We've got a really fascinating stack of sources today.
We really do. We're pulling from a historical wiki on the fashion and philosophy of the dandy, an exploration of Jungian archetypes in mature masculinity.
Plus some great articles on cultivating a positive mindset and introverted leadership.
Yeah, and then we're diving into some deep psychological essays on the trauma of male silence and the guardian archetype.
It's a lot of ground to cover.
It is, but our mission today is to unpack all of this. We want to explore how external presentation, internal psychological architecture, and just the heavy burden of societal expectations all interact.
Because true strength isn't just silent endurance. It's a harmony of integrated parts.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this because I want to figure out how we actually take this armor off without completely falling apart. And it makes sense to start on the very surface, right?
It does, because the surface is where we have the most immediate control.
Right.
How we curate our external environment, and specifically our physical appearance, actively shapes our internal state. I mean, it's the first line of defense.
Right. And to see how incredibly deep this defense mechanism goes, we have to travel back to the late 18th and early 19th century to meet the original dandy.
Oh, this is such a misunderstood concept.
Completely. Pop culture usually paints the dandy as this vain, powdered fop who just cared about looking pretty.
Yeah, just a superficial guy.
But historical accounts show it was actually a fiercely calculated survival persona. Take Beau Brummel, for instance.
Right, the ultimate dandy.
Exactly. He wasn't an aristocrat. He didn't have royal blood. But he completely dominated high society in Regency London.
And he did it all through immaculate restrained tailoring.
Yeah, we're talking plain dark blue coats, perfectly fitted pantaloons, and an elaborately knotted cravat.
It was an aesthetic of absolute precision. And, you know, the philosophers of the time really recognized the weight of what he was doing.
They're not all of them, right?
Well, Thomas Carlyle famously dismissed the dandy as simply a clothes-wearing man. He thought it was entirely superficial.
Just a guy who likes suits.
Exactly. But the French poet Charles Baudelaire saw something much deeper beneath the surface. He defined the dandy as someone who lives and sleeps before a mirror.
Wow. Lives and sleeps before a mirror.
Yeah, and for Baudelaire, this wasn't just vanity. It was a form of aesthetic nihilism.
Wait, aesthetic nihilism, meaning they cared so intensely about their clothes because they believed nothing else in the world actually mattered.
Exactly. It was a calculated rebellion. The bourgeois society at the time was becoming obsessed with mass production, utilitarianism, and just blending in.
So the dandy was pushing back.
Right. The dandy used hyper-individualized, obsessive tailoring to essentially say, I reject your ordinary world. I am creating my own reality, and I am at the center of it.
It's almost like paying for a verified blue checkmark on social media back in the 1800s.
That is a perfect way to put it.
I mean, they couldn't buy a noble title, so they were essentially buying the right to craft a stage persona to navigate a highly stratified society. They made themselves untouchable by being perfectly put together.
What's fascinating here is the absolute paradox of it.
How so?
Well, on one hand, dandyism is completely entangled with capitalism. I mean, it relies on the hyper-consumption of luxury goods.
True, you have to buy all those custom clothes.
Exactly. But simultaneously, it actively rebels against the conformity that capitalism demands.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you also see this subversive power beautifully articulated in Black dandyism. Contemporary artists like Yinka Shonibare create stunning visual pieces that place a Black dandy in Victorian settings.
I've seen some of his work. It's incredible.
It really is. It's a deliberate inversion of assumed power hierarchies. The suit becomes a tool to challenge who is historically allowed to hold status and occupy space.
And we still see this principle operating today, just in slightly different forms. Modern guides on cultivating a positive mindset talk about how controlling your immediate environment builds internal resilience.
Right. The whole order outside creates clarity inside idea.
Exactly. The premise is that taking 5 minutes to clear a cluttered desk or laying out a crisp shirt for the next day, those aren't just trivial chores.
They're acts of self-respect.
Yeah, they train your brain away from constant reactivity and put you in a proactive stance.
Which is crucial for mental clarity.
But wait, I have to push back here. Isn't this intense focus on the self, the mirror, the perfect desk, the crisp collar, isn't that just incredible narcissism?
It's a fair question.
I mean, how does this superficial obsession translate to actual, reliable inner strength?
It's a vital question. And the answer is that the outer shell must eventually be filled with internal substance. Think of that external discipline as just the scaffolding.
Okay, scaffolding.
Right. If you build the scaffolding and stop at the mirror,
Yeah.
yes, it's just narcissism. You're just an empty shell.
You're just Carlyle's clothes-wearing man.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But if you use that external order to quiet the noise of the world, you create the safe space needed to build your internal architecture.
Okay, so if the curated exterior is just the scaffolding, what exactly is it holding up? What does the building inside look like?
That's where we get into the psychology.
Right, because our sources brought up Carl Jung's psychological archetypes, specifically the framework of the mature masculine developed by psychologist Robert Moore.
A really foundational framework.
He argues that mature psychological architecture is built on 4 core archetypal energies: the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover.
And it's important to note that these don't just magically appear when you reach a certain age.
You don't just turn 30 and suddenly become the king.
Exactly. They evolve from immature boyhood archetypes. Specifically, the divine child, the hero, the precocious child, and the Oedipal child.
Oh, wow. So there's a progression.
Yeah, you have to integrate the energetic, sometimes chaotic youthfulness of those early stages to reach the mature forms.
Okay, before we sprint ahead, what exactly are the magician and the lover in this context? I think most of us have a vague cultural idea of a king or a warrior, but what do those other two do?
Great point. The magician is the thinker, the strategist, the master of hidden knowledge.
Like the intellectual side.
Basically. It's the part of the psyche that can detach from the emotion of the situation and figure out how things work.
Okay, and the lover?
The lover, on the other hand, is the opposite of detached. It's the deeply connected, empathetic, sensory part of us that appreciates beauty and feels deeply.
I see.
The king acts as the unifying center, bringing order to all the parts, and the warrior provides the action, the drive, and the boundary setting.
Let's zero in on that warrior archetype, because this is where modern society seems to have a massive contradiction.
We really do struggle with it.
We are profoundly uncomfortable with warrior energy right now, because we've seen the dark shadow of the warrior abuse, Cold stoicism, destructive, unhinged anger society often pushes men to only nurture their softer side.
Which results in what psychologists call the nice guy.
Right, someone who avoids conflict at all costs, even when conflict is completely justified and necessary.
But the sources explicitly state that the problem isn't the warrior energy itself.
Right, fighting isn't inherently bad.
Exactly. The problem is warrior energy that isn't guided by the empathy of the lover or the wisdom of the magician. The crucial question is, what are you fighting for?
The motivation behind the action.
Yes. When harnessed correctly, the warrior provides the necessary fuel to reach goals, protect boundaries, and fight for worthy causes. And crucially, it doesn't have to be loud or aggressive.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When you combine that harnessed warrior energy with the magician's mastery of strategy, you get the quiet, formidable power of the introverted leader.
Yes, the quiet strength.
We have this deep societal bias that extroverts, the loudest, most charismatic people in the room, are the natural leaders. But historically, our sources point out that just isn't true. Look at Abraham Lincoln.
A perfect example. Lincoln was an introverted orator who utilized silence as a tool.
How so?
Well, he would sit in a cabinet full of loud, incredibly opinionated rivals, and he would just listen intently to the chaotic chatter around him.
Not saying a word.
Right. He read voraciously. He let everyone else exhaust their arguments, and he only spoke when he had synthesized the absolute truth of the matter.
Wow.
His silence wasn't weakness, it was an information-gathering strategy.
Exactly. Or look at Rosa Parks. We often think of revolutionary figures as loud firebrands, but her impact was deeply rooted in passive resistance and quiet strength.
It was incredibly calculated.
Her refusal to give up her seat wasn't some impulsive, extroverted outburst. It was highly controlled. And the mechanism of her quietness is what made it so powerful.
It acted as a psychological mirror.
Yes. By remaining completely calm and silent, she offered no aggressive energy for her oppressors to bounce off of.
Which forced the injustice of their irrational anger to be glaringly visible to the whole world.
It's brilliant. And the sources mention other modern examples too, like Brigadier General Heidi Brown.
Right, an introvert who led by example as the first female combat brigade commander.
And even Mark Zuckerberg, who used a hacker's detached perspective to build global online communication.
For leaders like Lincoln, Parks, Brown, or Zuckerberg, their quietness wasn't an absence of power. It was deliberate containment.
I love that word, containment.
It was a deep well of that warrior and magician energy, tightly controlled and focused on a singular objective. They didn't need to dominate the room with volume because their internal architecture was entirely secure.
But, and this is a massive but, there is a dangerous tipping point here. We've praised quiet strength, we've praised stoic restraint, and a curated exterior.
Right, the healthy version.
But what happens when that quietness isn't a strategy anymore? What happens when the heavy armor becomes a cage?
This is where we transition into the psychology of trauma, specifically looking at the guardian archetype from the police one and mentoring sources.
Let's talk about the guardian.
The guardian is typically the emotional backbone of the family or the team. They're the one everyone else completely relies on.
The rock.
Exactly. But to maintain that absolute rock-solid dependability, the guardian often suppresses his own entire emotional world.
Right, and we have to make a vital distinction here between chosen silence and traumatic silence.
It's a crucial difference.
Rosa Parks practicing strategic resistance, or a modern leader choosing to listen before speaking, that's chosen.
Traumatic silence is enforced.
How does that happen?
This usually happens during critical developmental windows. A young boy cries or shows fear, and he is mocked, punished, or explicitly told to man up.
And neurobiologically, our sources say that is devastating.
It is. When a human experiences an emotion, the nervous system prepares for action. Your heart rate goes up, cortisol is released, the body is ready to fight or flee.
It's a physical response.
Right. Normally, you express the emotion, you cry, you yell, you shake, and the stress cycle completes. But when a child learns that emotional expression equals danger or rejection, they suppress it.
Wait, what do you mean by an incomplete cycle? Where does the physical energy actually go if they suppress it?
It stays trapped in the nervous system. The engine is literally revving, but the brakes are slammed to the floor.
Oh, that sounds exhausting.
Over time, this leads to something called alexithymia, which is the clinical inability to identify and describe your own feelings.
They literally lose the words for it.
Exactly. The neural pathway between feeling a physical sensation and putting a word to it just atrophies from lack of use.
And because the emotion can't be spoken, it undergoes what psychologists call somatic encoding.
Yes.
It's like a pressure cooker with a glued shut release valve. It disappears from view, so you think it's gone, but it's still eating up 100% of your energy in the background, quietly overheating the entire system.
The body keeps the score.
Unspoken grief or fear turns into chronic jaw tension, debilitating back pain, insomnia, and severe digestive issues.
Precisely. And this suppressed state manifests in 4 distinct patterns of male silence.
If you're listening right now, you are probably going to recognize one of these patterns in yourself, or maybe in your dad, or in your partner.
Absolutely. The first pattern is the deflector.
Oh, I know this one.
This is the guy who uses his intellect and abstract thinking as a shield to avoid ever actually feeling anything.
Right. You ask him how he's doing after a tough loss, and he gives you a brilliant, funny, high-level analysis of the economy.
Just to avoid saying he's scared or lonely.
Exactly.
What's the next one? Then you have the absorber. This is the classic guardian we mentioned earlier. He carries everyone else's emotional load.
The guy who is always listening, always fixing.
Always supporting. He does this until his own tank is completely empty, and he doesn't even realize he's starving for support himself because he's so used to being the provider.
That's heavy. Third is the detonator, and this one is widely misunderstood.
Very much so.
The detonator isn't necessarily an angry, aggressive guy. He's just the metal finally crapping under months of built-up grief or anxiety.
Because anger is culturally the only acceptable masculine emotion he was ever allowed to show.
Exactly. So all that suppressed sadness just erupts as blinding rage over something completely trivial like a minor traffic jam or a dropped plate.
And finally, there's the disappearer.
How does that one work?
When emotional intensity rises in a room, maybe during an argument or a heavy, vulnerable conversation, his nervous system just shuts down.
He just checks out.
He physically walks out or psychologically dissociates right in front of you. He's not trying to be cold or malicious. His brain is literally triggering a survival mechanism he learned in childhood to escape an overwhelming situation.
It's heartbreaking when you realize these aren't character flaws. They are brilliant survival adaptations that just outlived their usefulness.
That's exactly what they are.
But what keeps these patterns locked in place for decades? Why don't people just snap out of it when they grow up?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the lock on this heavy armor is shame.
Shame.
Shame is the ultimate enforcer. Punishment tells a boy, don't do that. But shame tells him the fact that you needed to do that means something is fundamentally broken inside you.
Yeah.
Shame tells a person that the feeling itself is the problem. It convinces them that if they take off the armor and are truly seen, they will be utterly rejected.
So the silence becomes self-perpetuating long after the parent or the coach who originally shamed them is out of the picture.
Precisely.
Wow. Okay, so we've diagnosed the heavy armor, we see the scaffolding, we see the archetypes, and we see the immense somatic toll of this traumatic silence.
It's a lot to carry.
It is. So how does the listener actually fix this? How do you take off a suit of armor that's grown into your skin without bleeding out?
It requires a very clear sequential roadmap. Psychologists outline what's called the 5R compass for reclaiming the voice.
The 5R compass.
And it is a journey. You cannot skip steps here. Phase 1 is regulate.
And why start there? Why not just immediately start talking about your feelings?
Because if your nervous system is in full emergency mode, you literally cannot do deep emotional work.
Your brain just won't let you.
Right. The prefrontal cortex is offline.
Yeah.
You have to get your footing before you speak. You have to stabilize your sleep, notice your body's early warning signs of stress, and find just a tiny bit of steady neurological ground.
So once someone's nervous system is somewhat regulated, what's the next hurdle?
Phase 2 is reclaim. This is where you look back and unpack exactly why you became silent in the first place.
Figuring out the origin story.
Exactly. You have to name the invisible rules you've been living by. Rules like real men handle things alone, or if I ask for help, I'm a burden.
And recognizing those aren't facts.
Right. You have to realize those are just outdated programming, not absolute truths.
Which leads right into phase 3, rediscover. This is tackling that alexithymia we talked about.
Learning the language again.
Yes, you have to learn to read your body's physical signals again. Before you know the exact word for what you're feeling, you have to just notice the tightness in your chest or the heat in your face.
Expanding your emotional vocabulary beyond just stressed, fine, or angry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then comes phase 4, which is reconnect.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Right. You start speaking the truth, but in safe, graduated steps. You don't start by dropping a massive emotional bomb on your boss or your partner out of nowhere.
No, that would just dysregulate you again.
Exactly. You start by admitting to a safe friend, hey, I'm actually really exhausted today, instead of just saying I'm fine. You have to build the muscle of vulnerability slowly.
And finally, phase 5 is recreate. This is where speaking the truth integrates into your actual identity.
It just becomes who you are.
Right. It's no longer something you have to force yourself to do. And we can actually blend in some amazing daily habits from the modern positive mindset frameworks to support this entire 5-hour journey.
Oh, absolutely. The mechanisms of mindset training align perfectly here. For instance, replacing complaints with curiosity.
That's a huge shift.
It is. Instead of sitting in the victim mentality of why is this happening to me, you shift the cognitive frame to what is this teaching me?
Or controlling your inputs. Curating your media diet so you aren't constantly poisoning your brain with manufactured outrage, which just keeps your nervous system dysregulated.
Yeah, that's huge. And building a routine of small wins, like taking a 20-minute walk with no podcasts, no music, just sitting with your own thoughts.
And embracing stillness, not as a way to disassociate or escape your life, but to actively reclaim it.
There was a beautiful quote in the sources about this.
Yes. You are not the thoughts. You are the sky.
I love that.
The thoughts, the anxieties, the fears, they are just weather passing through. When you practice that stillness, you realize you are the vast awareness behind the anxiety. That is where true, unshakable power lives.
It's all pointing toward the ultimate goal of that Jungian psychology we talked about earlier.
The mature archetypes.
Exactly. When a person reclaims their voice, regulates their nervous system, and integrates all these fractured parts, they don't lose their strength. They actually access the highest archetype, the king or the sovereign.
The ultimate integration.
The sovereign incorporates the fierce drive of the warrior, the strategic intellect of the magician, and the deep empathy of the lover in perfect, healthy harmony. The sovereign is decisive, they are strong, but they are also profoundly connected and emotionally awake.
Which is exactly what we need more of.
So what does this all mean? I have to ask the hard question here.
Go for it.
If a guy has been playing the role of the absorber or the deflector for 20 years, if his whole life, his marriage, his career is built around that stoic, silent performance, won't suddenly taking off the armor and speaking his truth completely wreck his current relationships?
This raises an important question, and the psychological reality doesn't sugarcoat the answer.
Yes, it will.
Some relationships that were built entirely on that performed, invulnerable version of you might end. If someone only valued you because you absorbed all of their problems without ever having needs of your own, that dynamic will absolutely shatter when you set a healthy boundary.
Because they were just using you.
Right. But that destruction provides profound clarity. The goal of this work isn't making everyone around you comfortable. It's becoming someone who can speak the truth. It's the stark difference between being truly known and just being useful to others.
Being known versus being useful. Man, that is a heavy, heavy distinction.
It really is.
Let's take a breath and recap this incredible journey we've been on today. We started by looking at the outward sartorial armor of the dandy curating the external self to command respect and navigate a complex society.
The scaffolding.
Right. We saw how that discipline, when internalized, taps into the archetypes of the magician and the warrior, leading to the quiet, highly controlled power of introverted leadership like we saw in Abraham Lincoln and Rosa Parks.
But then we explored the shadow side.
Exactly. We walked through the dark side of that quietness, the physical pull and the deep isolation of traumatic silence, locked in place by shame, creating deflectors and detonators.
And finally, the way out.
And finally, we found the roadmap out, the 5R compass that slowly dismantles the armor, leading to the crowning integration of the sovereign archetype, where a person is fully strong and fully awake.
And to you listening right now, the most vital takeaway from all of this exploration is that true resilience is never found in isolation. It is forged in connection.
We need each other.
We do. We put on this invisible armor because we think it keeps us safe, but eventually it just keeps us entirely alone. Remember, freedom isn't having to speak your deepest truths to everyone you meet. Freedom is simply being able to.
We've seen today that silence can be an incredible weapon of profound, quiet strength, and it can also be a suffocating cage of deep, invisible trauma. So take a look at the quietest areas of your own life right now. Are you actively choosing the silence, or is the silence choosing you?
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. For more information or to become a sponsor, please go to our website at www.newberryfilmworks.com. We'll get right back to you. Stay tuned for the next episode, coming up very, very soon.